We have Bryan Cook here from the city. He's our city manager. Bryan, did you want to come up and introduce your guests here tonight?
Thank you, Carol. Thank you all. First of all, he doesn't need any introduction, but council member since 2010, Vincent, you. John Santos, our new PIO and for the city. And Rob Bryan, who assists us with some communication and outreach efforts with Grassroots Lab. Thank you for having us. I look forward to talking to you, and my boss, Vincent, you talking to you in a few minutes.
Thank you, Bryan. I know we're all still eating dinner, but if you're agreeable, we'd like to have Bryan Cook come up, our city manager, and Vincent, you, our council member, to discuss the finances and with you. So go ahead and continue eating, please.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having both Councilmember you and I. And we want to make sure Brown Act issues and everything else. So the Councilmember is the only Councilmember here today. But the other council members, Mayor Sternquist, who's recovering from COVID, and all the rest of the council, thanks you for the opportunity as well to speak to you tonight. What we're going to do tonight is this is purely informational. This is nothing asking you to do anything, nothing of an ask of you, just to kind of give you a picture of where we have been. I've had the privilege of working for Councilmember you and the rest of the council members for 11 years. And I can attest to the fact that the city has done an amazing job of making sure we are dealing with our finances. And I would be remiss as well if I didn't point out a former council member to the city council.
Former mayor.
Former Mayor Dan Fish. And other council members prior, Fernando Vizcarra, Carl Bloom, have all really taken on the mantra of making sure that we are a fiscally sustainable city, and the fiduciary responsibility that the council employs in directing me to provide programs and services to the community is paramount in their mind. So what we're going to present to you today is some of the challenges that we have going forward. We are not in a position of a lot of other cities that we're starting to see, not only in Southern California, but around the state, that are starting to exhibit some significant fiscal distress, meaning they're going into deficits, they're doing other things. One other thing, walking around the room right now is Mr. Cranky, who is going to give you a survey just to get an idea of your thoughts from a budgetary standpoint, what you kind of feel are some priorities. And I'll talk about a few things real quick. And my boss will also fill in some blanks as well when what's something that I may be missing. Yeah, please.
So this is, first of all, thank you so much for inviting Bryan and me. Just call me Vince, please. So we're here to have a dialogue, and please, this is not a formal presentation, so ask any questions. We'd love to have a dialogue with you. And like Bryan was saying, the city has been running on a very conservative fiscally model. So we have something to share. It's not like we're fiscally in distress. So, but please let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Yu. Yes, if you have any questions throughout this presentation, because there are a few numbers here and whatnot, please ask Councilmember Yu and I any questions that you may have. So just a general overview of what we want to talk about. Just a brief overview of what our city services are, what's our budget like, how are we funded, and really what are the fiscal challenges and potential options for solutions we have ahead for us. So you all know that we are what's called a contract city. So we contract out for our city services. Our law enforcement and our public safety is contracted out with the LA County Sheriff's Department. Our fire department is through LA County, through the LA County Fire District. So those of you who pay, it's on your property tax bill. For those of you who have property in the city, you pay for that service that way. Our main asset, one of our main key assets though, is our streets and our roads. We'll talk about it. We have about 71 miles of streets and roads. We'll go into that a little bit more. Then we deal with land use, our planning and building safety department, how the city is built, how the city looks aesthetically from a land use perspective. And lastly, as you all know, and you all participate, so many of you are part of the Camellia Festival and other civic organizations, our Parks and Recreation programming is that kind of thing that's above what we provide to the community that makes quality of life so worthwhile here in Temple City. Our public safety, as I talked about, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One of the things that we are doing, and one of the things that the council directed us to do, was to shift away from parking enforcement and to look towards a model of community service officers. They will be providing, and this is to try to find a way to look at our existing budget, reprioritize some of those services so that we're providing some things like, if you have a report that you want during a non-injury collision accident, a community services officer can come out rather than a sworn officer that can still go out and patrol rather than having to spend 45 minutes making a report.
Yeah, I just want to add something. You know, Bryan talked about we are a contract city model. So what is the contract city? Is that we are a city that contracts some of our essential services out to LA County and perhaps other people too. For example, we might use a landscape company to help us clean up the street and so forth. But one of the things we've been hearing from all the residents, being a contract city model and LA Sheriff Department is limited in their ability to serve us in some sense. They have a moratorium going on with hiring officers and so forth. We'll also hear from all of you wanting to improve public safety, right? So this is one way that we look at. It's not like taking money away from the Sheriff's Department service network, which is augmenting and enhancing, so in improving public safety.
Great way of putting it. Thank you, Councilmember Yu. And with that, as well, our LA County Sheriff's Department, just kind of an interesting note, 75% of all fire department calls are medical related. They're not fire related, they're medical related. So what is one of our biggest assets? What do we do most is infrastructure. And when I think of the built environment, we have 71 miles of roads and streets. We have a community center. We have 3 existing, soon to be 5 parks. We just purchased a property at 5003 Sereno, and we're relooking at the old chamber site on Sultana to repurpose that as a park, not having to purchase a property. And that area is our most core part of the community as well. So that's really going to provide a benefit to that part of the community. Our sewer and stormwater system are laterals that we take care of, street signals, and a maintenance yard. So as a contract city, we still, as Councilmember is pointing out, we still got a lot that we do and that we're responsible for.
Yeah, just want to add just one note, and then we have our former colleague sitting here. You know, the city council is very aware that we want to put our service back and serve our residents. We collect money, we collect taxes and all, but we want to put back into the community. As opposed to previous councils many years ago, they love to save money, but they are not putting money back. And this council, actually, when our former colleague is here, you know, that we've been also practicing. We made the decision that we want to keep enough reserve in our piggy bank, but yet we want to put back so that because that money came from you, we want to make sure that you are getting the benefit of it. That's why you see we're now purchasing and leveraging our money at its strength. So we're getting, you know, more bang for our buck, so to speak, so that we can build more and serve you more.
So from an infrastructure maintenance standpoint, I know you probably, hopefully, you've been seeing a lot of street roadway work happening just very recently in the last 3 years. There's been a deliberate attempt at understanding what is the most cost-effective way to improve our roads. I won't go into the details of one of the subject matter experts, Councilmember Mann is not here. He deals with it on his day job. But what we have done is try to understand what's in the roads, how can we make the most cost-effective but from an engineering standpoint, the most sound approach to repairing our roads. And so that's why we've been doing what we've been doing over the last few years, and we've been collecting data. So we do what's called coring. So we look down and we actually drill down into the road, see what the base looks like. Think of it like the foundation of your house. What's the foundation of our house look like? What do we have to shore up? What can we do? And what applications can we apply to building upon that? That's what we've been doing for the last almost 6 years now, and really investing heavily. The challenge is, as you all know, the cost of everything has skyrocketed in the last few years. I'll give you an example. In 2021, we paved Las Tunas from city limit to city limit, a 4-lane road with a lot of complications throughout. A little over $2 million. A year ago, we did a 2-lane road, Garibaldi, over $1 million. So you can kind of picture the difference between Garibaldi to Las Tunas. So that's the challenge we have. So we've done, we've hired a third-party engineer that we have to do every 10 years or so for the state to look at our roads and give us a grade. And even with a lot of the investments we've made over the last few years, we're not flunking. We're not the dunce in the corner, but we're at a C- right now. And that may sound a little frustrating, trust me, I understand. But that means that still 50% of our roads are still in a poor to very poor condition. So that means over the next 7 to 10 years, to get us up to a B rating. And what does that really mean? No potholes. And it's not a static thing. Roads degrade and improve. You improve them, but they start degrading, right? Just kind of like your car. Think of it as your car is like I get an oil change every so many miles. I have to do a major tune-up every once in a while. Same thing with the roads as well. So for us to get to that B rating, to get us a regular maintenance schedule, we're going to have to put about $25 to $30 million into our entire road system over the next 7 to 10 years. You want to answer?
Yeah, I just want to add, we've been paying attention to the road condition as your council. It's our responsibility to take care of your asset. As Bryan had mentioned, 71 miles of road. That is actually the biggest asset the city owns. Not anything else, not buildings, not parks, our biggest asset is the road. So it's our fiduciary responsibility to make sure your investment is protected. It's just like Bryan was saying, the best thing we can do is prevent the road from deteriorating. But unfortunately, just like everything else, when it's built, from day one it starts deteriorating. So we have to go through cycles of maintenance. And we have looked at in the last 10 years, different ways of maintaining. That number that Bryan has on the screen, 25, 30, it used to be 40. But we were able to, by experimenting with different ways of building streets, we're able to lower that number down to 25 to 30. But even given today's escalation. Actually, one way to look at roads is, as you know, road is made of asphalt for the most part. Some concrete roads. But for the most part, concrete in the major intersections, the rest of our roads are asphalt. And if you go to the gas pump, gas station, you see gas prices go up, asphalt will go up too because of the petroleum part.
So are there different grades of asphalt? So if like you have an A, B, C type of asphalt that you guys can purchase for the road?
Yeah, there are different grades of asphalt, and we look at different ones, but in generally, for example, we look at ones with the rubberized asphalt. That is a product of recycled hot tires. But in general, they still deteriorate over time. Even concrete would deteriorate at this point. So not as bad.
Good question, thank you. So our budget overall is about $26 million that we're expending with about $20 million in revenue. So as Councilmember you said, we're taking our savings, which we call our general fund, you would call your savings, and we're reinvesting that back into the community. One of our challenges though is all of our infrastructure. Everybody's seen the rocket ship rebuilt at Live Oak Park and all those great projects that have been initiated. Started with the great stewardship of the council, which Councilmember Fish is on and carried through with the current council. But we do that essentially with general fund reserves and our special funds. So that's been a challenge. Another challenge that's been out there is our law enforcement costs. Our law enforcement costs have essentially doubled over the last 10 years. The council has allowed me to be on a countywide board called the Liability Trust Fund. And very quickly, what that is that it's essentially an insurance premium every contract city pays into to pay for the inevitable cost of claims, like from the shootings, all the unfortunate things that happen during the course of, and mostly car accidents, quite frankly. When in 2010, or approximately around that time, that premium was about 3.5% of the cost of every $1 million. So every $1 million we paid in our contract, that we would pay $35,000 of insurance premium cost. Today, that percentage is 12.5%. And it is the same thing you're facing with your homeowner's insurance, your auto insurance, and everything else. The cost of premiums have risen. In fact, it is very difficult. The executive director of JPIA has to work very hard. Literally, we have to go to places like the Lloyd's of London to procure insurance. It's not like going to AAA or State Farm to ask for that level, that type of insurance. So that cost has escalated. And what the council has done, and the previous councils have done, is really continue to provide that service without, the escalation of that cost with providing the same level of service going forward. And that has been a challenge. We're very fiscally conservative and robust in the sense of how we spend our money, but it's been a challenge. I know this is a little hard pie chart to see, but essentially where we get our money is from taxes. We don't, and most of those taxes are local taxes. There are very few federal or state intervention funds that come to the city's general fund to fund our day-to-day operations. Very few. And the majority of where the council has prioritized hearing from you as the community, where your priorities are public safety and community services. Did you want to add anything, sir?
No, I'm good.
Now, part of our fiscal challenge is, some of you may say, hey, we heard all these cities had money that came in from the federal government through COVID, which we did receive. We received about $8 million. What the council strategically did, though, is it used it to supplement our law enforcement services for a period of time, but also to that help backfill to do some major projects, including the Libo playground. We had to build a new roof. Some of you may have seen for a while, we had to build a new roof. The roof was almost 35 plus years old. The HVAC systems were almost 35 plus years old. And as we pointed out before, we purchased some property for a new park. Our challenge is that the city does not have sufficient enough funds to keep up with the pace of road repairs that we've achieved in the last 5 years. So we've caught up, we're a C student right now. We want to be a B student going forward. We can't promise you that we're going to be an A student on the roads, but we're going to try our best to get there, but we just don't have enough funding to get there. And as I pointed out before, our sheriff's contract costs, we can project, are going to continue to escalate. We provide the city council, and Councilmember or Nan will remember this, we provide the council with a 5-year projection of where we think we are going with both revenues and expenditures over the next 5 years. And in prior years, we have seen relatively good surpluses. So we had room to know we were going to build our reserves, and then the council could count on that to fund infrastructure projects and other projects as well. Our most recent 5-year projections, and it's in our budget, so it's transparent, it's out there, is minimal to no surpluses going out in the next 5 years because of these escalations in costs.
Bryan mentioned that the city doesn't have enough funds to fix its roads. I just want to explain a little bit. All communities actually in the current fiscal structure, the budgeting, none of the cities, none of the counties up and down the United States have enough money to do the roads. Because, you know, it's actually much cheaper to build something new, but it's the maintenance that will cost, because the roads would exist forever. I mean, the city started before 1960, it's been around for a long time. And a lot of the roads were paved back then. And then it is just like all communities. Bryan just referred to the revenue expenditure. The revenue expenditure structure model, even as a contract city, were very efficient. We still don't have enough money to do enough maintenance. But however, I can attest, and you can attest, but just by driving around, to see how well we've been maintaining our streets. Compare our city roads to another city close by, you can see we've done a very good job maintaining our streets. But even at that, as fiscally prudent, as forward-thinking city council, it's our responsibility to look to the future. The current is okay with Street Street, but if we don't do anything at all, the roads are going to deteriorate. I mean, take it to a logical conclusion. If we don't do enough, eventually, given enough time, the roads will turn to gravel. And you don't want gravel in front of your $1 million home, right? Because the quality of life depends on not just good schools, good signals, good public safety, good parks. You also need good roads. And it's also a safety concern. You call for ambulance, emergency service. You want the ambulance or the fire truck to get to your house easily. You want to drive down the street without bumps in the road, potholes that ruin your front end, or worse, cause an accident. But that's something that the council is willing to address the city. So we've been actually monitoring that. We've been doing pavement management study for over 10 years now, and the name will remember that. We've been doing that. We experiment with different things. We try to also find the most economical way is to do prevention. So you've noticed we do a lot of solar seals, we do a lot of maintenance work in the last 10 years. But finally, the low-hanging fruits are over. We're done with the low-hanging fruits. Now we're talking about major reconstruction. Some of you may have complained to us, how come you never get to my work? Because the replacement cost is so much higher. We can repave several times the amount of street than replacing one. So that's why, you might see how come so-and-so has a good road, and they get repaved again, and my road is not, because it costs so much more to repave yours or replace your street than to repave somebody else. So we have made a fiscally prudent decision to do so.
The mayor just got an email that she forwarded me to ask me that exact question. Why was my street not paved versus streets that are around it? So I'm going to be stealing some of Councilmember Reed's words right now and explaining that to that constituent. We talked about this a little bit. You can take our word for it or not, but you can look at the proof is in the pudding of our audits, proof is in the pudding of our budgets. We are leaner than we have been. We're the leanest we have been since 2014. It goes on and off in terms of staffing, but staffing is also about services. So when people say, well, we've cut employees, well, that's great, but that means employees are also a service to the community. But we are leaner than we have been in the last 10 years. As Councilmember Reed pointed out, we keep a reserve level there because we want to be able to have enough cash on hand to do projects. For example, about 8 years ago, we had the opportunity to partner with the County of Los Angeles on the library project. And it was almost a 2-to-1 ratio of funding, where we put in about $1 million, county put in about $2.5 million, and it was not, we didn't have to break a sweat about making a withdrawal of $1.5 million from our general fund to support and improve a really important community asset in our civic center. We're debt-free, so the general fund itself, think of it like your regular checking account. We don't have credit card debt that's laying out there. We don't have any other, we don't have mortgages on anything. So that's a really great place to be financially. And we've gotten certificates from other agencies and telling us that we've been doing a good job. We've been balancing our budgets with 1 year exception to the year of COVID, when everything was shut down, no sales tax revenue was coming in. But we did not have to panic. The council didn't have to panic. The council directed me, said, okay, Bryan, do what you can, keep services going, but slow down where you can. But we had enough reserves if, heaven forbid, there was a longer shutdown, we were not going to have to cut essential services, and that was essential. And the other thing the council, previous council members, current council as well, is saying, go out and find other people's money. Go out and find state grants. Go out and find other money. Over the last few years, we've been able to secure about $10 million worth of other people's money, state and others, and other partners, to essentially reinvest in the community, which has been great. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, speaking of using it, other people's money, what we built, Primrose Park, although you're familiar with it, that park partly cost the city any money. That was all grant money. So we look for those opportunities. Sometimes the grant application might say, if you want the money, you have to have matching. So it's great that we have the reserve to do so. The other one about the city's financially prudent, I don't hide the fact I'm a very conservative person. Fiscally, I'm extremely conservative. I see the city account as how I would run my household. That's why we're debt free. That's why we always have reserve. That's why we never spend money on things just because it's good to have, but we want to make sure we're getting the best value out of it. So don't take my word for it, just like Bryan. So we have also been bringing in, and Bryan, if you go back to the previous slide, there was something awards that we're talking here. The city actually, Tom and I both sit on what we call the audit committee. So we actually hired an independent, not city staff, we hired an independent auditing firm to audit ourselves. And we switch over the auditor. We've been on to what, about third or fourth auditor by now? Every 5-6 years we'll switch the auditor to make sure that, because we want to make sure the specialists are auditing our own accountants, in-house accountants, to make sure there's nothing goes wrong. And as a result of that, we were able to, I can tell you for sure that we have a good accounting. I can tell you for sure we're very wise in spending our monies. And those government finance officers associated certificate of achievement, we're very proud we've got 12 consecutive years. There were, as you may remember some years ago, over 10 years ago, the civil grand jury actually had gone through it, and there was also the
high-risk cities.
Yeah, they actually ranked all the cities. There was, I meant the state, not attorney general. There was
Either controller or
the control also did an audit. It was after Bell, and then you look at that list of cities that are most fiscally sound. We're way up there, Campbell State.
So yes, go ahead, Jerry.
What does the state require your reserves be? What minimum?
The question from Jerry was, what does the state require reserves to be? There is no minimum. So I know, for example, like the school district has to keep a certain minimum. We do not. It's one thing the state still allows us to do. They allow us not to do a lot of other things, but that's one thing they still allow us to do. It's kind of control our destiny financially.
Yeah, Bryan can speak to this better than I could, but most cities don't have enough reserve for 1 year of general funds. We're the few that actually.
do. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're one of the few. Most of them got, maybe 10, 15, 20% reserve, or sufficient to cover the annual expenses of 10, 15%. And we really want to keep a high reserve because we just don't know what might happen. So that's why when COVID came along, we didn't sweat. We know we can get through it.
Thank you, Jerry. So one of the options that the council is considering to provide to get us keeping pace with our sheriff's costs, but one of the biggest things is get our roads to that higher level so that we can go on a consistent maintenance schedule, stay on that every 3,000 miles oil change, is do a 0.75% sales tax increase, which would help fund all those city services, maintain them, enhance them where we can, but keep them on a steady schedule. And the escalation in costs that everybody's been feeling over the last 3 years, we've been feeling it as well, and in what we can do. So you may ask, well, what does the city do? Why the city's, I go to the grocery store and I pay sales tax. What's going on? What's happening? This is the breakdown of how your sales tax works right now. So the 9.75 sales tax rate that's currently in the city, 6% of that goes to the state of California. 2.7% of that goes to the county. 1% of that goes to the city directly. So if you think of that in, if you're spending $100, or you're spending $100 in sales tax you're paying, $1 of that comes to the city. So it's not, and so it's challenging for every $100. So we're not, even though it's a major sales tax, it's a major revenue source for us, our other agencies are collecting that sales tax and using it for them. And they're using it for good purposes, for services, but it's not staying here. If we moved up to the 0.75, we would receive 1.75 of the sales tax. So the county and the state of California would not see that. That 1.75 is also constitutionally protected. About 20 years ago, there was a constitutional amendment when the state of California was in a lot of hurt financially. They would take away revenues from cities. These are now, and my colleague in the back was a big part of that, Mr. Kariki, way back when. We have that constitution protected. So if this went before the voters, and if the voters voted for it, it is constitutionally guaranteed that it will stay in Temple City.
I want to make sure you actually heard Bryan, because he went through that one slide really quickly. You might, before we lose you, thinking, oh, these guys are lying in their pockets for tax dollar, maybe that's how rich. No, this is our way, after searching high and low. You know that one issue about roads going down and becoming gravel? This is for that, not for anything else. So I just want to make sure we emphasize, this is the city thinking right now how we can address the deterioration of our roads. Not to give a salary, not to give raises, not to do other things. So,
Do you realize, sir, this is the most taxed state in the country?
I
You
absolutely,
realize that most people in the city can't afford any more tax?
I understand that. Yes, I am anti-tax personally. I vote no on every single bond measure that needs to turn the
Is
balance.
there no other ideas you guys have come up with? This is the one?
Yeah, we look at property tax increase because there's really no revenue source. The amount of roads that we have, there's really no revenue source. Look, for example, we have $20 million on $25 million reserve. We could spend it one time on all the roads, get them up to B, and there's no more money, number one, in reserve for something that might happen. Number two, there's no money for maintenance.
Can I understand?
So we're looking for a way whereby we can not only fix the road, bring it to a high enough level so it's healthy, just like we do enough exercise to be healthy, and then find a way to maintain. And this is, we look at property tax, and we didn't like that. We think the mechanism of sales tax is the best. So that's what we're proposing, we're thinking, and we want to share that thought with you.
Well, I'd like to ask you not to propose it.
Okay. Thank you. I respect that.
So the question I have is that you raise the sales, raise the tax. Does that get earmarked just for the paving? How do you stipulate that?
Yes, that's a great question. I think you check with the city attorney. I'll let you take that now. I'll stop you.
So what we will do, this would technically be a general tax, but what we can do is what we'll look at is the council prescribing some kind of mechanism to ensure that those funds go towards the roads, towards the sheriff's department contractors as well. So we're going to look towards that. We're going to look towards a mechanism, but it is a general tax.
Yeah, let me also supplement that before the next question. You know, what I was thinking that was going to make it a city ordinance. And then at least in my way of thinking is requiring 4/5 vote to change it. And then if I make it an ordinance, it needs to come back to the city council. It has to go through first reading, second reading, third reading. So that way, I mean, assuming by then the discount, I'm not there on the council to make sure that doesn't happen. So we want to make sure the future council does not change that and start paying themselves salary or something else. So yeah, we thought of that. The only way to make sure is really making that a city charter. I don't know, that is going to be a tough one to do. Whereas we pass an ordinance requiring it to be a supermajority, requiring it because for ordinance change by law, will come back before you 3 times.
So does this go up for vote?
Yes, this will vote. This will vote. We'll have that for you. Carol.
Is the rate going to go to 10.5 or 10.50?
10.5.
10.5.
So it's only going up.
That's, we'll go 3/4%. And I'm right not there yet. The increase that we have will only come to us. We're not splitting that with anybody else. Because right now with the sales taxes, you can see we got only 1% of what you pay. But by having the special sales tax, that all that proceeds will come back to the city to serve you.
Would that be all the time or only a certain amount of time?
It will go on perpetually unless we change
Unless
it.
you have a vote
Right.
say, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Reduce it. Oh, I know much about it.
But I don't like sales tax. I mean, if you people that know me, I'm a very conservative person. Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Now, is there a way you can get the money from the electric cars that are out there versus the ones we pay at the pump? Do you get any of that funds, or is there a way to get it?
There's really not a good way for the city to get it. We don't license the electric vehicles. That's a state purview. So what we're really looking at, we're scratching our head. What are some things we can do? And this is the best thing that we think that we can propose to you, because the increase will come back to us. And the other thing is about sales tax is it's this general sales tax across the city. So and our biggest income on sales tax is actually restaurants. That comes to a big portion of that. And a lot of that are outside people. I mean, not too many people. And then there's a slide that Bryan's going to go through. Grocery, your essentials. You don't collect the sales tax on it. Let's say you go down to the grocery store, bonds, routes. The food is not taxed. So we're about taxing items like cars, like gasoline, like processed products, restaurants, that kind of thing. Not I'll let Bryan go on because we'll take more questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Yu. So this is what it looks like with our surrounding cities right now. We are currently at 9.75. Several of our surrounding cities are at 10.5. Some are a little higher than that. As Councilmember Yu pointed out, sales tax has exemptions for most groceries, prescription drugs, residential rent, professional services, and utilities. That's where we kind of line up regionally. So we're not an outlier in terms of having the voters consider, as this is an option for the voters to potentially consider this tax if this was referred by the council. So it would roughly bring in about $2.5 million. What that would do, and we try to provide a range because we want to be honest about what we can do with this money. Every 7 to 10 years, there will be some type of treatment on all residential streets, and it will vary over time. And Councilmember, you and I have talked about that, the types of applications that we apply in the streets. We talked about this before. This would be a locally generated tax. It stays here, stays in this community, state of California can't take it, and can't be transferred to another agency. And this would be the first time in the city's history that they've asked to be approving a local sales tax measure. So, go ahead, sir.
You know, I mean, before, and I already told you that I'm anti-tax person, right? I voted against every single bond measure. However, the question we need to ask ourselves, and why would I, somebody like me who is conservative, agree to something like that? I think we all need to ask ourselves a question. What if we don't do it? What will it do? What will happen to the city street? What will happen to your biggest asset? And you put me there as city council member, and my responsibility to see that your asset get the best treatment. And I really don't know how we can do that without some infusion of money. We have enough funds for one-time improvement, but that would empty our piggy bank, so to speak. It would, in my mind, it's not prudent to empty your piggy bank and have no money for emergency, have no money for maintenance, and then yet if we don't do anything, the roads are going to go to ground. And I'm not kidding. That is the eventual result of not doing enough. So, just wanted to put it out there for everybody to think about.
This only works if we spend our money in Temple City.
Yes, we are. That's why this is a special tax that only comes to us and not sharing with. And also, actually, even though we don't have it, there's a cap of 10.5. All of the county comes brings sales tax on us as well. You didn't count it.
Thank you, Vince.
Yes. One of our other concerns, just generally speaking, is that the reason why the tax is where it's at is because the county, and this is no slamming on any county employees.
I work for the county.
But the counties come in decade over decade and essentially added sales taxes that we have to pay. And in some cases, the city does see a small portion of what is collected. For example, the Measure M and Measure R money that's used for roads, we do see a portion of that funding. A good portion of that funding comes to us, but I will speak to Measure H and A. It's the homeless funding. We do not receive a significant portion of that funding for direct services for the community. So part of our concern over time, and we've seen it before, we've seen it in 2016, 2017, and late last November, is that other agencies have the legal ability to put a countywide sales tax on, and that service, and that tax goes directly to the county, and we hope that some of those proceeds of those tax revenues can come to provide direct services to the community. I can attest to the fact that, Councilmember, you knows this, I actually just sent out a letter yesterday regarding Measure A and how they actually are distributing that funding. It's extremely restrictive and it doesn't really fit. For example, what we try to do is we try to prevent homelessness. We try to help people through some nonprofits in the school, working with the school districts as well, to keep people housed. They want to tell us, no, you have to do something different, which is really difficult for us. So thank you for that one, sir. So what's next? Many of you after late February may have received a call from a polling firm that we hired to gauge the sentiment through a poll to see what the residents of Temple City, how they felt. A majority did support a 3/4 cent sales tax. Now, it's a sampling, it has a margin of error, but even with that margin of error, there's still a majority of the residents of Temple City the voters of Temple City that would vote for this. We're still going to talk to you, continuing out the You and Cook variety show. We'll still keep hitting the road over the next couple of months. We may be considering, and again, this is an option that the council can consider to put on the ballot sometime in 2026. So I'll turn it over to Councilmember you to conclude.
Yes, it's not something we really like to do, but we just feel that it's our responsibility to keep up the county, your biggest asset, I.e. the road. I mean, it's very easy for me as a council member and say, I'm going to serve another term or whatever, and as a matter of fact, my term for this year is up, so I can walk away. But why are we doing this? Because I think as city council, as an entity test, we take our job very seriously. We look for you, for the future, we plan for the future of the city, and last 2 years we were studying payment management, we were studying when Nan was on the council. We just don't know there's any other way to do it, and so as a responsible city council, and not afraid to ask and raise the hard question, we are coming to you and saying that that's something we're considering. Because the alternative is worse. That our roads are not safe, our roads are not keeping up with the quality of life, not providing the quality of life that you want, it's not keeping up with the condition of your house. I mean, I'm sure all of you replace your roof every so often because you don't want water coming. Same thing here. Our roads also need maintenance. The current city revenue, the grant money that we get, what we call special funding, it's only for arterial street. That's why Las Christmas, Rosemead, Temple City, they're looking so good. Because there's money that we can have, but mostly residential street, we have exhausted all the low-hanging fruit. And that's why we have to do this, take this next step. Otherwise, it's not going to go back immediately, but it will slowly deteriorate over time. And we just feel that it's our responsibility as we elected. You put us there to look to the future, and we feel that that's the only responsible way to do so, is to bring something back like this for voters to consider.
So, thank you, Carol, and we're here for any other questions that you may have.
So really quick question.
Yeah, Tina.
Bryan, is that slideshow available on your city website?
It will be available on our city's website, and I can guarantee it'll be on TempleCityPhotos.com as well.
And I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of your questions too, because we want to address that in all the every part we're going to have a queue for it as well to address all the concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
Laying above ground and then going underground on some of the big pillars.
Underground utilities, you were saying? The pipe is when you see that wire, you see that? Okay. Actually, the pipe is on the street that you saw before, and it was actually Sand District, our LA County Cemetery District. They were doing that pipe, that big pipe that you saw, that was a bypass. Basically, they stopped the sewer from point A to point B and elevate everything finally on the road, so that none of you during construction, maybe you get interrupted a day or two, you can still use the bathroom and so on and so forth. That was a bypass, to a bypass. No, sewer district, that is a separate item on your property tax. Actually, by the way, we did look at doing the property tax. Now, to answer one question, that can we earmark those money? Had it been property tax, we could, right? Yeah. But we feel that sales tax is a lesser of a burden on our residents, because property tax, every single one you get. Sales tax, at least we got support by folks coming into the city to shop, to eat, or get their service. So we feel, as I live in the city just like you, right? I feel that it's less of a hit on us. Many of us not getting very close against some fixing, right? So we're looking for ways that it will cost you the least to get the biggest impact. That's why we're doing what we do. Any other questions?
Yeah. I want to ask you about the community service officers that you guys want to have.
Sure.
Community service officers.
Yes.
Are they going to replace any of our sheriffs?
No, they will not be replacing, sir. They will be non-sworn. They will not have any, they're not armed. So they are there, for example, say there's a non-injury collision and there's sheriff is on another call, that community service officer can go to that crash where there's non-injuries, take reports, those kind of things.
What kind of calls are they actually going to be going to?
So for example, those kind of calls, I'm sorry, thank you, sir. Those kind of calls were non-injury collisions, burglaries that have happened maybe a week ago that they need just to take the reports, fingerprinting, everything. They'll do those kind of things.
Well, first of all, I must clarify. We haven't put that plan into play yet. That is the thought we have. You know, we hurt you. You know, if you hear the city council speak, if you come to public safety council meetings, and we do it at the end of every month, and Wednesday morning at 7 at the community center, you hear that we spend a lot of money on the sheriff's service, and yet the sheriff's department itself is under a lot of pressure. Every one of the officers are working 5 to 10 hours overtime. With the age, with attrition, we're not getting enough motor, meaning officers on motorcycle. We are getting the biggest use of our folks, the dedicated sheriff team, so we're still getting their service. What we want, and then we've been putting cameras on key intersections to only reading license, but by the way, they don't read faces. Just want to put it out there. We're doing what we can. We put a ring camera. Remember, we sponsor a ring camera program. So the city council and the city is really thinking, how can we improve our public safety given a fixed budget, relatively low budget, given the sheriff department's stress? How can we as a city supplement that service? That's why we came up with that. So it's not taking away any of the sheriff services, but what we can do is we can take some of the loads off them, the paperwork load off our sheriff sworn officers, and supplement by non-sworn, by our own officers, so that our sheriff deputies can focus on things they do best. So that's what we come out to augment what we have. It's not taking away, it's adding. And then our own officer, even though they're non-sworn, they'll be driving a city vehicle with a light bar on top. I think a lot of ways the visibility of an officer, quote unquote, I think is in and of itself will be a great deterrent for folks that might want to come into our city. Because I lived in the city too. My house got burglarized way back when. You know, I feel that myself. So we want to provide you with better service at a lower dollar. And that's really what the idea is. So a lot of the plans are yet to be worked out, but that's what we're thinking.
Any other questions? Well, again, thank you for allowing us to take as much time as we did today talking to you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.